Hi folks, thank you for coming out tonight. We're going to get started here. The clock is now just slightly past 6 o'clock, so we don't want to waste any of the precious moments we have left. I'm Jeremiah Sandberg. I am the Laramie County District Attorney. And I want to thank you on behalf of the South Cheyenne Community Development Association, along with partnership with LCCC, who has very graciously provided this room here tonight. We're going to have a candidate forum. This is not a debate, but it is a chance for you, the audience, to ask questions that I will present the questions to me, and I will present them to our candidates for Laramie County Commissioner. The candidates at the moment are going to introduce themselves, but before we get started, I want to go over the rules just real quickly. The candidates will have 2 minutes to introduce themselves, and then when we get to the questions, we'll sort of alternate down the line who answers the question first, and they'll have 2 minutes to respond. The questions are, again, provided by you, and because they tend to continue to come in through this debate, I will mix them in. They're not in any particular order. I'm not prioritizing them. I just, every once in a while, I see me shuffling the cards, and some people don't like these questions, but I've got more questions. And I want to give everybody a fair chance to have their question asked here tonight. So without any further ado, we'll start with Commissioner Buckholz here. We'll give you 2 minutes to introduce yourself. And you have a mic? I don't know what to turn it on.
I guess it's green. Yeah. I'm Buck Holmes. I think most everybody here knows me. I've been a county commissioner for 4 years. I think I've done a pretty good job then. I haven't pleased everybody, but I've tried to do what's right. We've made a lot of progress through then. Since then, we've done a lot of fixing up on the county facilities out of Archer. We've managed to help get new police cars and some of those things, and we have kept a balanced budget. We've kept a very conservative balanced budget, and this year with the state cutting back on us, we are still able to maintain a balanced budget and without cutting back on any of our employees. I guess most of you know me, so there's no sense in me saying much more than that, so I'll turn it over to Emily.
Emily Hazenauer. I'm running for candidate for County Commissioner 2016. I was commissioner here for 2 years and enjoyed the time I was in there. I had a 100% record on the dais voting on the issues that mattered most to you. I am a fiscal, strong, conservative Republican. I think it's important to stick to a Republican platform. Limited government, limited taxes, and protecting every one of your constitutional rights. The founders had it right when they said you would have a limited type government with enumerated power. The power belonged to the people. So when I took this opportunity to run again, I will be looking for opportunities to reduce the size of government, reduce regulations, and freeing up and making it more business friendly for our businesses to prosper. In a bad economic time, I think you need fiscal conservatives in there, and I will be watching out for your taxpayer dollars. I'm a foster parent, and over the last 8 years, we've taken in over 15 kids. 3 have been baptized in Jesus' name, and they went on to be productive citizens. That's the good part. So the experience with social things we can handle. I am a facilitator. I've done some large events, 700 people with tea parties. I've done some smaller events with 200 to 300 people. I will be putting a servant's role into government, and I think my experience it speaks well, and my voting record also speaks well of being a strong fiscal conservative in this race. Thank you.
My name is Amber Rash, and I am currently a county commissioner. I was born and raised in Cheyenne, Wyoming. I grew up on a ranch. In high school, I was a member of FFA, and I ran purebred Gelby and Gelby Angus cross cattle. After I got out of high school, I sold them to purchase my first house when I was in college at the age of 20. I graduated from the University of Wyoming with a Bachelor's of Science in Political Science and a Master's degree in Public Administration. Graduated Pi Sigma Alpha and Pi Alpha Alpha. prior to being elected as a county commissioner, I served a 4-year term as a city councilor for Ward 1 in the city of Cheyenne. And then before that, I was the 21st Century Community Learning Centers program manager for the state of Wyoming, where I managed a budget of approximately $17 million and a grant that was statewide. We served about 11,000 students at 112 students, or at 112 centers throughout the state. That budget, the way it worked, it was under the tidings amendment, so that meant that the grant awards ran for a 27-month period, which means at any point in time I was running 2 to 3 grants across the state depending on the time of the year. I also wrote the NASA Summer of Innovation grant application. Wyoming was one of only 4 states to receive that application or to win that award. Each state was only allowed to submit 1 application. We took over 500 students and provided them a summer education program, including taking them all the way to Denver to experience some of the cultural amenities there. As your county commissioner, I worked really hard to address citizen concerns, specifically when I think I ran out of time, so hopefully we'll get more time.
I'm Kevin Tye, and I'm running for county commissioner. I was born and raised here in Cheyenne, Wyoming. I've been a firefighter for 9 years with the city of Cheyenne. I was also a volunteer firefighter with Laramie County Fire District 2 and with the Wyoming International Guard Fire Department. So I really enjoy serving community and being a community servant. I don't necessarily have a platform. I just really want to know what the people of Laramie County want. And if elected, I'm going to do my best to reach out to everybody to feel what the community needs and what you guys want. So I just pledge to be transparent, and I would appreciate your vote.
All right, 50 candidates. And like I said, we're going to kind of shuffle down the line. So Emily, this question, we'll start with you. How do you go along with others?
Well, it's always a work in process, but I'm a person that took 7,600 signatures in 3.5 months. You have to be a people person to do that. I have a large family, 5 kids, 5 grandchildren, also attend a large church. I love people, and I think it's always an opportunity when you're in front of people trying to get consensus on an issue that you do a little homework ahead of time so they can find it easy to follow you so you can get along to get the job done. Thank you.
You know, as the old cliche goes, there's no I in team. And I think it's really important that recognize that it takes. Can you hear me better?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So I'll start over. I think as the old cliche goes, there's no I in team. And I think it's really important to work as a team. Many of the initiatives that I've worked on as a commissioner require a team effort. It's not one person pulling it off or making it happen. It takes a team to come together and make that happen. One of the things that I worked really hard on to build consensus was on Plan Cheyenne. And so I took the feedback that was given to me, including from the South Cheyenne Community Development Association, as well as several other organizations, and worked through all that feedback to amend the plan to reflect, based on all of the feedback I got from all the different sides, what I thought was a good middle ground. And all of those amendments were passed. That took a whole team of commissioners to agree to come to consensus. And I think that's really important, that sometimes you don't necessarily agree with everybody, but you should be willing to listen and willing to consider other people's viewpoints and to recognize what's important and to be able to incorporate that. And remember that as a commissioner, you don't just represent one group, you represent the entire county, and you have an obligation and a responsibility to listen to all of those viewpoints and to try and represent all of those.
I
feel that I get along with people very well. In my job as a paramedic and a firefighter, every single day I deal with multitudes of people, and I have to get along with them all, or else I would not be in my career field. Also, outside of work, I really enjoy listening to people. With my marriage, I realized that relationships and people's viewpoints is not one-sided. It's a give and take relationship. So I have a very strong belief in the give and take. So that's why, as I told you earlier, why I'm running. I want to know the opinions of the people and the people that I represent if elected to the county commission.
Well, I think I get along with people pretty well. I enjoy visiting with people. I know that many times when we have had groups of people that have had different viewpoints, my philosophy has always been to try and get them in the room and get them together. I've been involved a couple different times where we're emails here and emails there, and it was just turned into a disaster. We got those people in a room and got them all talking together, and eventually ended up with a conclusion. I enjoy visiting with people. I've been told I'm kind of a BSer at times, so that probably does fit a little bit. But I think one example of how I get along with people is, and I've been involved in numerous organizations in my lifetime, all the way from stock growers organizations to fire departments to now the county commissioner. And I've always been elected to positions of leadership. And I don't think you get elected to those positions unless you get along with people. And I've also found a long time ago that you can disagree with somebody, but you don't have to be disagreeable. So, and I'm also an eternal optimist. I always think that we try to come out on the good side. And so I guess that would be how I look at how I get along with people. Thank you.
Thank you. So I have this next question. We'll start with you. What are your thoughts about the MPO?
So the MPO plays an important role in determining our transportation plans and our ability to be able to qualify for federal funding. And I'm not sure people really realize 69% of the fifth penny goes to roads. In total, that makes up about 3/4 of their budget, or to public works. That makes up about 3/4 of their budget. The remainder of that comes from things like CRIP funding, gasoline tax, those types of things. And so the ability to be able to do certain big projects depends on strings. And some people don't agree with those strings and other people do. And so when it comes to like the MPO, our ability to qualify for certain federal grants to be able to fix the roads is contingent upon some of the plans that they evolve, that they create. And so I think that I realize that the MPO is controversial, that some people don't agree with having the MPO or with having plans. But one, you need a plan so that you know how much you need and what the project's going to look like in order to be able to build it. You also need to be able to coordinate things like acquisition of right-of-way. But that doesn't mean that we can't take a plan and be able to modify it and make it fit our local government. And going back to what I said in the previous question, that's what we did with Plan Cheyenne, is we took all the feedback and we were able to make it fit for what Laramie County needed. And I think it's the same thing, is that as commissioners, we have to drive the bus and not let the bus drive us.
I do feel it's very necessary to have plans, but also it has to be the right fit for Laramie County. It can't just be a shoebox type deal that everybody's going to use, or you're going to lump anybody, excuse me, into the same box, because that's just not how it works. It needs to be spread out. Everybody needs to have their own little fit in the plan. So even though it's definitely important, but again, it has to benefit and be right for Laramie County.
think that's kind of an ironic question because I am now the commissioner's representative to the MPO political arm. There are actually 3 of us, the mayor who represents the city, and then a representative from the highway department and myself who have to sign off on the ultimate end of all of the MPO's projects. I think the MPO has a lot of faults with it, but it is something that is probably necessary if you're going to continue to get federal funds. The Federal Transportation Act always mandates that the cities of over 50,000 shall have an MPO to do their planning. Casper just recently, they have enlarged theirs. And I think one of the things that we might say is the MPO, up until the time that several of us commissioners were elected 4 years ago, kind of had the free run of things. And with the help, or Amber Ash's help, or my help with Amber, and also working with members of the city council, we took what the MPO considered a mandatory plan, and we ended up making everything in it permissive, so that it's just a plan. And we all have to do plans one way or the other, and I think the thing that we have to realize is that we need to keep the MPO in the area that it's a plan, that there are new rules and regulations that are written into it. It's just a plan, and plans can be modified anywhere in the future. Thank you.
Well, I believe this will be a separation time. I think the MPO is some of the problems of not being business friendly toward business. I not only think it needs modified, I think it needs the delete button pushed on it. I think the $800,000 that we spend on the MPO is a waste of time and money. And there needs to be a plan in Laramie County, and it could go back to the existing plan. But when you have an unelected bureaucrat that answers only to the city council or certain ones at the state or the county commissioners, and all 3 have to agree to get rid of them, that's a tough job to hold when you're elected official. I think not only the Southside Development put additional 15 amendments together, I think only 3 of them were passed. We held meetings where we had 120 people come to these town halls. They were furious about the MPO and Plan Cheyenne. I think it's something that the people want to see go away. There's a lot of business people that have spoken to me many, many times that this is the problem of not being business friendly. So the separation of my belief is that the MPO needs to go away, and we need to come up with a plan that protects our Western heritage and protects our property rights. It's very few words in there that says anything about property rights and protecting them. And South Greeley Highway Project was a perfect example when the attorney out north and the Southside Development got together and stopped them from widening that road and walking all over property rights to do that. The MPO's a problem, Plan Cheyenne's a problem, and we can come up with a better plan if you elect a good commissioner.
All right, thank you. This next question will be for Kevin at the end. I hope I read you correctly. How do you feel about putting a servant's role into government? Give us an example.
I actually feel it's very important to be a servant if you're going to be in government. I think that a long time ago some of that was lost, and to me that is the sole purpose of being in a governmental or an elected position, is you are that voice, you are a servant for your community, so it's absolutely important.
I think the question was, how do you feel as being a servant in government? Is that correct?
How do you feel about putting a servant's role into government?
Oh, a service role into government.
The servants, I think, is what it says, but you can take it how you.
Well, anybody that's in government, whether you're an elected official or whether you work as a salaried person, is a servant of the citizens of that community. And I think that is paramount. I've always stated since I've been commissioner that I've talked to anybody about anything, and that we will try and rectify any problems that we can. And I have done that several times for individual citizens, and we've also worked together on groups where we found we've had some problems. So I think if you're going to be in government, I think you need to realize that you need to work for the people and that the people don't work for you. And I know that, for example, Laramie County's employees and government is infinitely more friendly to the community than, from what I understand, some of the city people are. So thank you.
Yeah, putting a servant's role in government is absolutely necessary from every citizen-type candidate running. I told a guy the other day, I'm a citizen, I'm not a politician. I finished his tree job. He looked at me and said, "You must be a brother of mine because you did that tree job just like I would have done it. And because you said you're a citizen and not a politician, I'm going to write a check for $1,000. So I started going to the next event and shaking everybody's hand. I'm a citizen, not a politician. But I'm telling you guys, an example of a servant's role. We had our public works too busy to clean out the culverts on a road, and this lady was calling us weekly to do it. I put my work clothes on, I went out at 6 o'clock in the morning, I cleaned the gutters out myself. We also had a meeting where we had them 120 people come in our room. We only had seats for about 90 people. Another example, I went and got chairs out of our offices and got as many chairs as I could inside that so they could sit down. And when I seen they couldn't sit down, I stood up the whole meeting. That is putting a servant's role in the government. We are a government by the people and for the people, and this county commissioner puts that very seriously. When you take an oath to office, that you will put a servant's role to the citizens, so help us God.
I think that the servant's role is really important. You know, when you run for elected office, it goes back to what I said in the previous two questions. You're there to represent a lot of different viewpoints, a lot of different people from a lot of different walks of life. And you have an obligation to hear them, to take their concerns and their considerations into your own consideration as you're making a decision. And to recognize that, you know, the decision that you make when you sit up on the dais impacts 90,000 people throughout the county. And that, you know, when you make that decision, decisions have consequences, and sometimes they're viewed as good and sometimes they're viewed as bad. But if you go into a servant's role, if you go into a role like the commission and you don't understand the impact of the decisions that you're making, you're there for the wrong reasons. Because there's going to be times when you're going to have to tell people no, or you're not going to be able to accommodate what it is that they are requesting based on all of the different issues that you're balancing and all the different complaints that you're receiving. And you have to be willing to do that while respecting them, treating them with integrity and compassion and kindness, and recognizing that, you know, when you're able to resolve that issue, that needs to be on the list.
Thank you. I think we'll come back down there to Buck to start over again. Like this question's for you. Are you for a 6th or 7th penny sales tax? And if so, what would you like to see that used for?
Well, I think it's probably evident that I am a proponent of allowing the citizens to vote on their taxes, whether it be a 6th penny or a 7th penny. We at the commissioner level have been working. We have some projects that infrastructure that we can't fund out of our own budget right now. So we have been working, I think, also in conjunction with the city. Amber Ash and Troy Thompson are our 2 representatives. We have 2 representatives from each of the smaller towns and 2 representatives from the city of Cheyenne. And they are working about putting together some projects on the 6th penny, and it will be a menu-style ballot so the citizens can vote whether they do want to spend their money on this particular project or whether they don't want to spend their money on a particular project. And I think it's up to the citizens to decide whether they want to have a 6th or 7th penny. I know there is a group that is trying to go after a 7th penny, and at this stage, they have gone to a petition. They came to the commissioners, and we told them we thought the project would work better as on the 6 penny ballot, on the menu style ballot, and so far I haven't heard anything back from them. I am a proponent of being able to have those projects which can't be funded out of our normal income at the county, to let the citizens vote on those, and they can say yay or nay. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that the county commissioners don't need to be cheerleaders and try to cheer on any new tax. I would never give them 7 penny tax, because it would never go back ever. Totally against that. But I don't think the commissioners should take a stance on whether it's one project or the other. About the only project that is worthy of consideration, that has state statute back it up, and that is to provide a fair out to Archer. But that's up to the will of the people. The true bosses of Laramie County get to decide these issues. I've seen the Fair Board reduce that from 2010, where it was a $20 million project, down to a lot more manageable project to move it out there. We know the cost of moving that fair is around over $100,000. I don't know, in 10 years, that's $1 million. Why not move the fair out there? That'd be the only project that I could say, yeah, that's one you could support. A lot of people say be a 4 and no more. The 5th penny is what does our roads. I think that is one of the main issues out in Laramie County, is fixing our roads properly. You have to have the 5th penny. And I would love it in bad economic times if we could lower taxes and we could have a rest on the 6 penny tax, so we can give our constituents and taxpayers a break. Then it would produce more revenue for our county. They'd be buying cars, campers, boats, all these stuff that they've been holding off onto because of the 6 penny tax. So not so many projects should be on the 6 penny, and we should stick to giving the taxpayers a break every once in a while when we have collected the money. Thank you.
I think what Commissioner Holmes said is exactly right, is that you know, the commission doesn't raise your taxes. We put forth the ballot on the 6 penny for you as the citizens to decide if you think those projects are worthy of having on paid for by the 6 penny or not. And every single person that goes to the ballot who exercises their right to vote has the opportunity to say, no, we don't want to pay for that. And so if the citizens as a collective whole decide that none of the projects that we put forward are worthy of a 6 penny, and they vote no on every one, then that's the decision of the voters. And that's a decision that we should respect. And so I think that decision in regards to the 6 penny resides and belongs to the voters, not with the commission.
To piggyback on what they're saying, the 6 penny it's not. I am for the 6 penny if Laramie County chooses the 6 penny on the ballot. It's up to the people to choose what taxes they want. So with that, if the 6 penny is chosen, I am in favor of moving the fair to the Archer complex. I think that would be its permanent home, and that'd be a great spot to have